Welcome to the Football Show on PLZ Soccer, sponsored by Arnold Clark. I'm Peter Martin, delighted to have your company on this Tuesday. Alan Ruff alongside me, and our special guest, as ever on a Tuesday, Hugh McDonald of the Daily Mail. Here's what we'll be talking about today. Yeah, lots to get our teeth into. First and foremost, no surprise, a rethink on the League Cup semi-finals. The Police Scotland wanting a discussion with the SPFL to look at this again.
Yeah, I think the police initially coming in and saying, yeah, we were fine with doing that. And then I think as the story has grown in momentum, and the Police Federation, which crudely speaking, as you know, is the policemen's trade union, I bet you a few of them have had words with their gaffer saying, we don't fancy this one little bit. And not only that, if you're left with this on the Sunday and there is trouble, it'll come back to lie at the door at Police Scotland. So, rightly or wrongly, that's where it would go, because they would get the blame for sanctioning it in the first place. So, yeah, it looks as if Celtic and Hearts go to Murrayfield, Rangers and Aberdeen, a later kick-off at Hampden. I think it's sensible.
Yeah, sensible. Full marks to them for obviously looking at it and maybe coming up with that conclusion, hopefully, in the next 24 hours and beyond. But it does beg the question, first of all, I think we're a bit of a laughing stock, Ruffy, and second of all, who was involved in the discussions? You know, at what point did they suddenly decide this is what's happening, and everybody else seemed to be excluded from these discussions?
Yeah, well, obviously we only can go by what's thrown in front of us, and I think if you remember the interview with Stephen Gerrard and Brendan Rodgers, they didn't seem too fussed about it. You know, whether that was the party line to go down, I'm sure the both of them would have had more to say. But yeah, it depends. Somebody must representative from both clubs or four clubs must have been at a meeting. I don't think they made this judgment without them. So somebody must have agreed to it somewhere down the line for the police and the SPFL to move it on.
Hugh, I mean, at times you look at what happened over the last week or so, and there's been heavy criticism. And again, nobody came out to say, okay, here's what happened, here's the discussions that had taken place, and here's why we got to the point where we decided both of them would be on the same day. That didn't happen.
No, and I think piecing it together, we can come up, Peter, with I think with a pretty pragmatic and maybe even valid reason for why the decision was made. I suspect very strongly that it was the contractual agreements with Hampden and BT that were the forcing hand in this. Initially, though, they should have went and said, they should have gone to Hampden on the QT, I feel, and say, listen, we know contractually you're due both semi-finals. We know that. But this is a perfect storm. Not only are Celtic and Rangers in the semi-finals, which is not is not a huge thing not to predict, but they played on the Thursday, so they have to play on the Sunday. Not only that, the real imperfect storm was they weren't even drawn together.
Yeah.
They were drawn apart, so everything has fallen out. Can you, on this occasion, can you do is let us out, we'll pay you something, let us out of this contractual agreement today, and we'll move on the basis one semi-final goes to Edinburgh, and one semi-final goes to Hampden. But it wouldn't have been delicious if Murrayfield had turned round and said in a huff, well, nah, we'll not have that. But again, it's all about money, and Murrayfield will be looking and saying, right, that's a nice wee payday for us as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's hope that is all confirmed before too long and we can all put it to bed. The one other aspect of it, I think, that reared its ugly head was the fact that, if anything, away from the ground is where I think most people were really worried about this one, because quite simply, some fans can't behave themselves, and it's not so much the fact that the majority of fans can behave themselves. Some fans quite happily will look for an area where they can all kick off together.
Yeah, that seems to be the way. You know, it's not sometimes it's not the fans that go to the game, it's the fans that don't go, you know, and they go to pubs or clubs or whatever, and obviously they are drinking all day and heavily, and that's when the trouble usually happens. So I think the sensible thing is to try and restrict that as much as possible.
And there's no point in saying, Hugh, that we don't have trouble in our game still. It's still there. It's maybe not as reported as frequently as usual, but you only have to look at the evidence of the conduct of a fan who decides that it's a good idea to throw a coin at an assistant referee in the game between Livingston and Rangers, which is despicable from some moronic idiot.
I hope. I mean, there's. We've both had a look at the pictures, and the guy looks visible. So let's hope he's identified, huckled out the game, and by the way, not just banned from the game. I hope, I really hope criminal charges are brought against this guy, and he's done in court. It's just absolutely, outrageous to do that to an unsuspecting victim. The problem is, is not just in grounds, because they can police that pretty well now. Although that was a terrible incident that did cause trouble. I think the big problem for me, Peter, just thinking as a Glasgow man, having a full Hampden coming back into the town while a full Hampden was heading out of the town. And that sort of area in front of Queen Street Station would have been like, the last days of Saigon. I really feared for that.
Yeah, and of course, off the back of that, there's all sorts of stories that have emerged. One of them, of course, that one of the UK's most senior officers, its Chief Constable Mark Roberts, is looking at liaising with Police Scotland and reviewing the operational planning for matches as well. And, I think this is an investigation into how they are policed around all the major games.
Yeah, and I think anything they learn and anything that can be improved going forward is great. I actually think policing around the stadiums now is pretty strict. Some fans would say too strict.
Yes.
There's some fans would say, wait a minute, I've got sympathy for them in that. Because
I was going to say to you, do you think they have a legitimate voice in this?
Yeah, well, they do until a lunatic at Livingston suddenly throws the whole argument, contrary to what I'm trying to espouse. I just think that I like to treat, I think we should all do in life and treat people as human beings. And I always feel my little petty hate is that the way, I do a variety of sports, or did cover a variety of sports, was the way that rugby supporters were treated in comparison to football supporters, and the actual treatment and the language used, the tone and used towards football supporters, in certain grounds I didn't think was of the best. But when they, it just shows you though, Peter, one guy can throw it, or 4 or 5 guys, or one little incident can throw it all out.
Or even over and above that. And there's more that springs off, regarding fan safety, or the way they're treated by police, and the security, and, and how we deal with segregation in grounds. We're still waiting to see what will come out of the Celtic Rangers game at Celtic Park, because apart from anything else, it was scary, and we're waiting to see what the investigation reveals from that. If anything, Hugh, I think one of the big things, and that's just from speaking to people in the background, I think sooner or later, quite a lot of people need to gather a bit of pace on this and suggest that Rangers and Celtic really need to have a rethink about this cutting of the away support.
Yep.
One, because I think it kills the spectacle of the game, and 2, because I think it's very difficult to get that small amount of fans in there while the majority, 99.9%, are all trying to get into the stadium.
Yep, and there's obviously a problem. I spoke to people who were on the periphery, not people who are actually in it, but they were enough to know that they said this was really bad. They really feared for lives being lost, so that goes without saying that has to be looked at the highest level, and recommendations gone there. I agree with you about the Rangers Celtic thing. I think Celtic, as soon as Rangers came out with it, we were only going to cut it to 800. It was obvious what Celtic were going to do. It was a complete, utter, just quick tit for tat. But it's not for the good. It's not for the good of the occasion. I wonder behind the scenes. We all know that clubs can do whatever they like with their tickets. We know that, within reason. But I'm wondering behind the scenes if broadcasters will have a word with them. Say, listen, this is this is not the game that we paid X amount of money for.
Well, I agree with you. Ruffy, a number of Celtic fans said to me, what are you blithering on about? It was a great atmosphere. It was a great atmosphere if your team's scoring the goals. But there's nothing better than two sets of supporters, providing, of course, their conduct within the ground is up to scratch. You can have a tremendous atmosphere.
Yeah, well, with 9 times out of 10, that's what we talk about. We talk about supporters making a game. Just because of the banter that goes on, the singing that goes on, the banners that go on as long and the right tone. And you're right, there's nothing better than turning up at particularly an Old Firm game an hour before it and hearing everything that's going on. And it is 9 times out of 10 relatively funny.
Here's another point that I think has been made on several occasions. It's almost like Groundhog Day with this next line that I'm going to deliver, which I'm almost certain Arthur Montford and Archie Macpherson delivered on many an occasion as well, Hugh. Aberdeen want a 50-50 split on the tickets. I mean, it's discussed every year. And I am all for Aberdeen getting 50-50 on the tickets.
I'm as well, but I wouldn't be if I was a season ticket holder at Rangers.
Well, what's that got to do with it?
I'll tell you, because I would say that's really unfair. I would say I pay my season ticket, I go to every game for Rangers, and I won't get a ticket for a cup semi-final. Whereas somebody in Aberdeen who might not go to any game all season is guaranteed a ticket. And I'm always aware of the 50-50, and I agree with it.
Yeah.
But I'm just putting the other side of it. If you're your season ticket holder, you and your Wayne are going to see Rangers every single week, and you don't get a ticket for the Wayne turns, where's our ticket for the semi-final? Oh, we didn't get the ballot. And you watch the television and you say, there's guys there that never go to an Aberdeen game. I don't know how you get round it, Peter, because I think you have to, that great word in Scottish football, for the integrity of the competition, you have to split it straight down the middle. I believe that, like you. Yeah. But I still think it's all right for us to say it as punters looking on. If you're a Rangers season ticket holder, I could see why I wouldn't be chuffed.
Yeah, and don't forget, there's no point really in emailing us or indeed tweeting us and posting a message on YouTube about sporting integrity. We mention it, but we know it doesn't really exist. You know it, and I know it as well. Okay, so do you think Aberdeen should get a 50-50 split? Give us your thoughts on that. Of course, Kieran Tierney was talking today ahead of Celtic's journey to Salzburg in the Europa League. He was talking, first of all, about domestic issues and the fact that it's early days in the race for the title, but Hearts have to be considered.
As I say, it is very soon. Form can change in the season, but Hearts are up there, of course, unbeaten, so you can't look past them. Obviously, right at the start, a great start from them, but there's plenty of teams that can go there, and it's still very early. Who's won the league after 7 games? You know what I mean? So it's very early on.
Yeah, it's very early. Okay, didn't take a rocket scientist to work that out, but I think Hearts are in the mix.
Yeah, they're in the mix because they're showing a bit of consistency where nobody else is. Aberdeen, Rangers, Celtic, were the candidates there. I mean, you wouldn't have thought at the beginning of the season, if we all sat here and went, who's going to be the top 4 teams after 5 or 6, 7 games? It wouldn't be the case as it is just now. And that's why they're there, because they're the team who have set the stall out, they've got the right players in, they're playing a good brand of football, and more importantly, they're winning games, and they're winning games relatively comfortable.
Yep.
Great to see them up there, Hugh. I mean, I've watched them on several occasions. I didn't like the Livingston game because, it was just... It was hard to watch it the way that the style of the game played out. But the one against Motherwell in the League Cup was just a cracking cup tie, and Hearts played some really good football.
The good thing, the strong thing about Hearts, I think, is, and there had to be legitimate questions about Hearts over the season, the close season, because they had a poor season last season, and they brought in another job lot of players, huge amount of influx of players. And then they lose important players. They lose Lafferty, who was important. And they lose Berra through injury. But I think the thing about Hearts, which gives me confidence that they're in it for the long run, is if you look at the team, there's good players in that team. I think the midfield with Lee and Haring are good. Souttar's having a great start to the season. I think Mitchell, the left back, is a real player. I think Naismith up front is a real player.
Yeah. Don't forget Morrison. I just think he's been a star man.
Yeah, and then well, this is us. That's me mentioned 5 or 6, and then you're adding another correctly. So you're getting to the stage where you say this is not a bad mob at all.
Yeah.
I think as well. And the funny thing is, what everybody's regarding as the blip, which was drawing against Livingston, having missed a penalty, doesn't look a big blip now, does it? It looks points dropped at home. Don't get me wrong, but it doesn't look like the disaster it may have looked at the time.
Well, to be fair to Livingston, Ruffy, you know, I look at the league table and I'm saying to myself, well, they're in third position in the table. I mean, everybody sometimes looks at the stature of a club and the history of what's gone before, but he looks as if he's assembled not a bad team. They're hustle and bustle. They're maybe not easy on the eye at times, but they're getting good results at the moment. So maybe, as you said, it's not a bad result.
No, and the other good thing about it is they're defending well. They're defending in numbers. They don't look as if they're going to be muscled out of any game. They remind me a wee bit of you might remember the year when Hamilton were up there, second and third for large parts of the season. Unfortunately, they fell away at the end.
Yeah.
But
that was the First World War intervened with that.
Football was stopped, Ruffy.
And I'm sure a lot of people remember that when Hamilton were up there challenging right until Christmas time, and then obviously it never happened for them. But I've got a funny feeling that Livingston obviously won't be in the top 4 for me, and I think
I'll tell you, you can't be that kind of punditry, Ruffy. See, at that point, I don't know why.
Well, I'm going to go further and say I don't think they'll be top 6 either. So there you are. So I think they enjoy it while it's there just now, because I don't think they'll be able to maintain that kind of form.
Yeah, okay then. Just remember that was Alan Ruff that said that. Just enjoy it while you can, Livy fans. You're going down the way. It's as simple as that from Ruffy. As far as Kieran Tierney is concerned, he's obviously part of a squad that had a good result against Aberdeen, and suddenly, Hugh, they start to look towards Salzburg, which I think the next couple of games are a real test for Celtic in that group.
I think Celtic's at the moment, every game's a test. We sat here last week and we said the next 2 games are huge for Celtic. St Johnstone away, Aberdeen at home. They've navigated both those games, slender margins, but importantly won both games. So there's a bit of momentum. Salzburg, I think, Salzburg now look as if they are the strongest team in that group. You know, given that they won in Leipzig, very good technical team. Got to the latter stages of that tournament last year. Very quick, slick on the break. I think that's a hugely difficult game for Celtic. Anything at all from there, a point would be absolutely huge from there, Peter.
Yeah, I think so as well. That the problem is the back four, still the back four. And Aberdeen showed at the weekend there that they're still vulnerable. They can be cut through. Craig Gordon made a couple of good saves that could have turned the game a wee bit. Lee Griffiths heading one off the line. So the teams are still getting at them, and that will still be a problem for Brendan Rodgers, because before, when they were on that fantastic run, teams weren't get chances. But now they are getting chances. Yeah,
and the Rangers at Rapid Vienna at home, which I think is a huge bonus for them.
Yeah, and the other bonus as well is Rapid Vienna, as we know, are in meltdown. I think they only won 4 out of 9 games. The manager sacked in one day.
Yeah, got a new one in though.
Got a new manager in. So 3 points for Rangers on Thursday, given the point in Villarreal, is a huge start to that campaign. It really is. I mean, we can reflect on the Rangers' form in the league. Can be a programme of its own, but if you take the next game up, that would be a huge result for them. If they could win on Thursday night, that's a long way to get out of that group.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, what's your take on the whole Rangers situation at the moment? Because, you know, I think a lot of, I wouldn't like to say spin on it, hyperbole about Rangers and the way they've started the season. I think there's a longer picture here for Steven Gerrard. I'm looking at them. I look at them and I don't see them as the finished article before the Livingston thing, and I don't see them. I don't see them winning the league, Hugh. And I don't understand some people are suggesting that they can.
There's a lot of supporters got this huge expectation, this huge drive for it. I think if you sat down with Steven Gerrard, which I hasten to add I haven't, I would think he would be saying we're miles off. I mean, even for the when I say that, I think they've improved massively. But for where he wants to get them to, which is competitive, post-Christmas in Europe, whether it's the Europa League or whatever, a team that's winning silverware regularly in Scotland, I think certain things have to be done. I don't think the defence is as good as people have made it out to be. I think there's a problem with Tavernier, and I can hear people screaming, how's there a problem with Tavernier? He's one of the best players. Yes, he is, but I don't think he's a right back, and I know, if you play 3-5-2, you can get away with him there. But there's an accommodation got to be made, and the most important thing, I think, front end of it, there's not enough. They really lack creativity in the final third.
OK, let's hope we get 2 positive results from Celtic and Rangers in the Europa League. We're going to switch just quickly to something that caught my eye in the papers this morning. Of course, Alex McLeish commented on it yesterday, which is, of course, whether Tom Kearney is going to commit himself to Scotland or possibly be on England's radar. This is what McLeish had to say about this yesterday.
We contacted Fulham and last week, for fitness for duty, and at that moment they said that Tom wasn't going to be available. So we went along, in the Fulham kind of lines, and for that reason didn't include Tom. But he only played for 20 minutes, and he's obviously missed a few weeks in terms of playing games. But it's nothing sinister. It was more the dialogue we had with Fulham. It's a little bit like Scott McTominay. Whenever we've had Tom in the squad, Tom Kearney in the squad, he's integrated with the group brilliantly, and we would expect him to prolong his Scottish career.
Yeah, we need everybody, Ruffy, we can.
Yeah, we certainly do. And the only way this can get cleared up is by the boy. McTominay came out when it was hinted he was going to go with England to say, no, Scotland's the place I want to go. So all it needs is Alec McLeish to give the boy a phone call and get a reassurance. That's if he replies to him, right?
Yeah, there's a few players who don't bother looking at when the Scotland manager calls. I do. I always answer the phone. Just before we finish, a couple of nights of Champions League football. If you're into it, we are almost certainly into it. And the Tuesday, there's the pick of the games there. I think Manchester United at Old Trafford against Valencia. All eyes will be on Jose again. It's bubbling along nicely, that story, Hugh.
Yeah, another thing about it, crucial thing about that, still trying to sell tickets for that tonight. That's astonishing.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's astonishing. That gives you the level of disaffection that's there.
Does he go or does Pogba go?
Oh, he goes.
Yeah?
Yeah. I think if football has taught us anything recently is that managers go before players. Remember, it's the same situation he had at Chelsea, and Hazard's still playing at Chelsea.
Yeah, OK. Here's the Wednesday night fixtures for the Champions League as well. There's some tasty ones in there too. If you were looking, I think, is it all eyes on Tottenham-Barcelona for you, Ruffy?
Yeah, it's for me. I think Tottenham are still to establish themselves in European football. This is a good one to test themselves against.
Yep. For me, it's Dortmund. That's my team. They're making a good fist of it this season, and I think that's a big game for them tomorrow as well.
Yeah, OK. Well, that certainly will register at least maybe 2 people clicking onto the red button to watch Dortmund against Monaco. So well done to Hugh and his son for flying the flag for Dortmund.
He's on holiday.
They do. We are Tottenham Barcelona. Anyway, on that, thanks to Hugh McDonald as ever and to Ruffy. Join us tomorrow on the programme. Barry Ferguson will be with us in the studio.